want to talk about, in my mind, and I think a lot of the people that would probably be listening, they're going to be thinking like and maybe this is just me, I'm projecting. When I think about getting a deal done, the part that excites me is the conversation and getting the deal done, getting them to say yes. And the part to me that makes me think I'm never going to get this done or I'm going to suck at this is like literally like the paperwork and the legal and just all that stuff. Once they said yes, how did you guys cross the finish line? What should people expect? What was your experience crossing the finish line on like the boring stuff, I would say, that to Deacon is like, you mean the most
I
exciting
liked
part
it.
ever?
You know what it was kind of like? It was like, I'm going to go with like NBA championship. Like, let's pretend that's closing the deal, right? And it's like the clock ticks down to 0 and like the scoreboard's there. But then instead of it being like this like streamers coming down, then like everyone goes and gathers around the table and they have to like make it official. And you just stand around the court for like 2 weeks. And then someone will come out later and be like, congratulations, here's a bunch of papers to read. And that draws out for like another week or two. So it was like a slow moving celebration, I guess.
Yeah.
That was in some way anticlimactic.
Did you guys like, who did you use for, did you have to have like a bunch of like suits? Like were there a lot of like, I don't know, service professionals involved to cross the finish line?
It was just one, and he was fantastic. Travis kind of took the lead on a lot of that stuff, but I really liked working with him. Travis, you've worked with more than one lawyer. What was your experience?
John's great, so I'm not going to reveal his last name because I don't want you guys to go flood his inbox because he's my attorney, and maybe I'll share him with you if you join a mastermind of mine or something. But I've dealt with many attorneys in the past, and John has been nothing short but extraordinary because it actually gets back to you. Most attorneys are very slow. They're slow to respond. They're slow to do the work, and they're just, quite frankly, annoying. So when I closed I Love, it was like pulling teeth from my attorney to get him to respond to the purchase agreement. And that was a little bit more involved because they had a whole team of suits and a full team of attorneys. And then I had my one attorney, but he's done a lot of deal flow. He's probably in his late 50s. And so he's seen a lot of big deal flow. So we were actually a smaller deal for him. And we ended up paying about $30,000 to get that deal closed. Much bigger transaction though. This transaction probably cost us $3,000, and there's only one attorney involved. There was no back and forth. We pretty much went back and forth between us and the seller ourselves to negotiate the terms. And usually attorneys are involved there, but we just did it cordially as sellers and seller buyer. And then once we had the terms, we sent them over to John. John put them in a document for us. We sent it back to them. The only back and forth was, hey, did we get your address right? Did we get your LLC right? Did we get everything right? And then it was on to DocuSign to sign. And then you get an email that just says, everybody's executed this document. Here's your final draft. And so, when you bought a business before, like you bought a house or something like that, you go in and you sign, and then it's like, here's your keys. This was just like, here's your document, and you now own the business. And then the previous owners, it was just kind of like, yep, see you later. And we had one meeting with them, and that was it. It's pretty easy.
And I didn't even get the email. So talk about anticlimactic. I was this whole time, I'm like really excited about this deal. And a lot of that 2 weeks when we're waiting was mostly just me texting Travis being like, what if something goes wrong? What if something, and he's like, dude, just, relax. This is going to close. It's all fine. And then so like when it came to closing day, I was eventually texting him. I'm like, Travis, they still haven't signed. Do you think something's wrong? And he's like, they signed like hours ago, man. What are you talking about? So I missed the party.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
I'm sorry about that. The funny thing is when we closed I Love, they actually did a Zoom call where we all signed DocuSign documents together. And I was like, well, is this Zoom call necessary? And they're like, no, we just wanted to celebrate together. And I was like, oh, like the old days. I get it.
Also,
cool.
I'm billing for this time, so.
Yeah. Yeah, the lawyer's like, we're definitely meeting.
Yep,
we're definitely going to celebrate. It's an hour party.
Yeah, with this deal, I knew the sellers, they wanted to pretty much move on to their next venture, and they already have, and they just wanted this to be behind them, and we were excited to get it. So it was a win-win from all parties, and that's why it got closed so quickly. And as a buyer, when you're experiencing burnout from a seller, it tends to close pretty quickly. And if you're ever going to sell your business, make sure you don't express burnout, because when you express burnout, that puts the buyer in a very, very promising position that they can then use as leverage to really either do something like drag it out. We did not do this in any way, by the way, because I knew the sellers. But what can happen is they'll put you through a ton of just financial analyses, a bunch of attorney speak, and just exhaust you and wear you to the bone, so that by the time you get to the signature, they're like, oh, wait, we uncovered some new stuff and we're going to half the price that we're going to pay you. And you're just so exhausted by that point that you sign. That almost happened to me in 2019. And I was going to sell I Love for $700,000. And I had debt of $300,000. So I would have closed with like $400,000 in my bank account. Then I'd have to pay taxes on that. So I'd have like $220,000 when it was all said and done, maybe a little more. I didn't, obviously, because I was just like, this doesn't feel right. And I ended up selling it for multi-millions just a year and a half later. And so know that if you come to the table burnt out, because I was burnt out on that 2019 call, that you lost leverage. But when you come to the table, quote unquote, as the pretty girl in the red dress, or whatever you want to say, pretty girl at the dance, you have leverage over the buyer. And you don't have to sign. When you come with that position of authority, that is huge on a deal, because you're going to be able to walk away and still be happy. And so that's why I always say to business owners, make your business so fun you don't want to sell, because then when you go to sell, you may not do it, and you don't have to. You don't want the people with the money to bully you around, because they will. And I've seen it over and over again. I didn't want to be that. And, Deacon and I are kind of, and with the help of Justus too, are creating this kind of, I don't want to call it private equity, but it's like a private equity fund. It's not quite like private equity yet, but I don't want to do it in the bully manner that private equity does. And they do. It's just they have the money and they think you need it, and you think you need it, but you don't, because you have this business that is making 500,000 in EBITDA, $1 million in EBITDA, and that's a lot of money. And they need you more than you need them, but not really, because they have other deals as well. So go at a point of leverage of like, I don't have to sell, and you'll make a lot more money as a result.
Did you guys have any kind of, what would you say were like the main 3 parts of due diligence? Like what would you say was like the main 3 things that went into like the due diligence part of this that someone that wants to buy a business, buy a brand can expect?
Well, I ran their ads for 2 years.
Travis had a lot of insider intel, so that definitely sped things along. There was none of this like, are these numbers real? Like, is it really selling? So like we could just kind of sidestep all of that. I will say that Travis sends me a lot of things to look at, like potential other deals. And the first thing I'm always looking at, even before I even know what they sell, is I'm always like, I want to see numbers here. Like, what do their finances look like? And I don't usually have those right away. There is so much information in an actual like balance sheet and P&L that people don't always tell you. It doesn't come out in conversation. So that's what I'm always really curious to see.
Oh, right on. Right on. Okay, so was there anything that was like what would you say is the number one thing that scared you before closing that potentially could have kept the deal from closing?
The biggest one was their bestseller was out of stock.
Oh, yeah. A bit of a problem.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah, I could have answered Deacon's for him, because he was texting me and like, hey, what if they don't close? What if they don't close? And I was like, there's more fish in the sea, but they will close, trust me. But my biggest hiccup was their bestseller was out of stock, which was 90% of their revenue. And they were completely pivoting to a new product that hadn't been released yet. And that's where all the money was going behind. That was through the advice of me. I had advised them to add to their bestseller. I advised them to take their bestseller, which I have right here for those on video. It's called Hiatal Health. And the problem with Hiatal Health is it takes about 2 months to fully work. Like, you're not going to notice results for 2 months. And we needed to combine that long-lasting relief with immediate relief. And so I told them to just add a little bit of calcium carbonate or sodium bicarbonate, which is an antacid. And that's going to provide a little bit of instant relief until they get to the long-term relief. But what happened, I remember this conversation, is they completely flipped. And they had it. We talked to the manufacturer. They're like, yeah, that's this product right here. I was like, why didn't they order that one? So instead, they ended up coming out with a brand new product that has the antacid in it. It's a tenth of what you take on 1 Tums dose. So people are popping Tums 3 times a day at every meal, and it's like 2,000 milligrams, I think. And ours is 200 milligrams a day. And so, or 200 milligrams per capsule. So it's only like 3 to 10% of a typical dose. So our goal with this product is to get them off their antacids. But the proprietary gastric relief blend below that made Hiatal Health famous, it's gone. It's like brand new in this product. So we're like, okay, we've got an unproven product. That's what we're going to try to sell. But the name is what's key. It's called Reflux Essentials. And so we can go after that market hard without making a claim because it doesn't say acid reflux on it. It just says reflux. And so when people see it, I have acid reflux, Reflux Essentials. It's kind of that like they see it and it's going to be easier to sell. So it happened. It's going to be a blessing in the long run. But when you buy a brand and they're out of their bestseller, that's 90% of their revenue. And the other 10% is already stocked out too. It's like, oh, well, this is going to be very, very anticlimactic.
Where that put us in a challenging situation, Justus, was we had the deal was done with like seller financing. So we have a note payment to cover. We got to pay Shopify and Klaviyo fees. We had about, I forget, $2,000 to $2,500 just carrying costs baseline. And that's not paying anybody. That's just like, that's what it costs for this brand to exist on the internet. And then the things that sell are all gone. And so we had to kind of limp along for a bit because we had like 10 to 12 week lead times to get the product in stock. So we closed the deal and then we're like, all right, now let's start paying note payments and, waiting around and all that stuff. So it was really, it wasn't just like a slow start. It was like almost like a negative cash flow start.
Yeah. That's how I like to roll. That's how I started my practice.
Yeah. It sounds almost like, one of the benefits of e-commerce is like low overhead, I would say, like, especially when you're starting or taking over, but it feels like it started off almost like retail, where it's like, now we have overhead all of a sudden that we didn't choose. We know it's there, but also there were some changes in the manufacturing and some investments that were made that were almost kind of not best that now we inherit. And so for you guys, like Deacon, you're numbers guy. I mean, Dr. Travis, obviously you're a numbers guy too, but you're kind of operations looking behind the scenes, trying to look towards the future and going, we got to make this thing like cash flow positive, because if we're going to run ads, we got to pull that, or we're going to be consistently pulling from outside of it, from our internal pockets to make this thing run, which is not why we invested in it. We invested in it because we see a cash flow opportunity. So for you guys right now, Deacon, for you, what was like your, oh shit, like what were you looking at and going like, now that you own it, what was your, this scares the crap out of me as the owner now, not getting the deal done, but now as the owner inheriting this thing. Oh no.
So it was kind of, so Travis was just sharing a little bit about like the new product coming out. I don't know that he is accurately capturing how we experienced that, because I remember we had gone through, like, the order was finalized. We're weeks into this, waiting around for it, and now we're working on label. Like we had to redesign the label because we redid the product, and some of the old labels didn't meet all of the regulatory standards, and so like we had to go back and fix some stuff. We needed new barcodes, like all of this, just kind of like basic setting up a new product stuff. And so we get to the part where you put the ingredients on the label and like the manufacturer sends them over. And I just remember this chat in our chat room. Travis is like, hey, these are like different ingredients than I expected. And I'm all, oh, okay. Like which one's different? And he replies, all of them. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I thought they were just adding the like sodium bicarbonate thing and the rest was staying the same. Like, there's got to be something that's the same between these products. He's like, no, literally every single ingredient has changed. And so then it quickly went from like, oh, we've got this, enhancement on a proven product to never sold this at all before. And so for me, that was like the part where I was like, gosh, well, like I see as a marketer, and I see why Reflux Essentials is a fantastic product, but I'm also realizing that we're not now starting from a place of momentum where we already have hundreds of reviews and people love the product. We're starting flat-footed here. And so that, I think, is what really scared me.
Were you having the same feelings, Doc, or were you kind of like, I've been here before, we'll be fine, kind of resting heart rate of a 20, just like this is another day in the life.
It's another day in the life. It's man, the setbacks we'll have moving forward. This is going to seem like a little bump in the road, and it's crazy what's going to happen in the future that you just don't know what's coming. As a supplement brand owner, it's not for the weak. It's why it's one of the hardest spaces to get into. It's why one of the hardest spaces to market in. It's why it's incredibly lucrative when you do it right and you do it with service. And so I wanted Reflux Essentials because I knew the assets that they had that were not being used. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. And yes, we're still, we're early in the sales cycle, and it's going to be like Deacon said, we're starting flat footed, but I'm putting it all out there because I've made this whole thing public, and it could fail miserably. And if it does, I'm okay with that because I'm going to learn a lot from it, but I don't think it's going to because of the assets that we have. And it's the assets that I always talk about on my YouTube channel. It's just stop relying on Amazon hacks and tactics and start building a real brand around real people. And when you do that and you take care of those people with great products, they'll come back and buy more and more. And now that I've got this product and tried it myself, I'm like, this is actually a really good product. It's essentially a digestive enzyme. It's a probiotic. Plus it's got
Wait a
ingredients to
second. Hold
strengthen
on.
your
No,
stomach,
no, 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 no,
esophagus.
no. Hold on a second. Before you teach
You
us
don't want me
about
to
the
sell it on the
product.
podcast?
Yeah, please stop. What? You're like teaching a class, and like you're like taking us through the course. You're saying you weren't scared at all with this new information. You're just like, oh, this is great, which is fine because I have seen your resting heart rate. But was it just like, yeah, cool, this is great, or were you like, this is an issue?
No, I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried. I wasn't. I was
What a
excited.
jerk!
I totally believe it. He seems 0% worried.
I know.
Which is fine, but just like there's a difference between launching a new product and you're like going into it saying, "Hey, there's a lot of unknowns here. We're launching this new product." And then what I feel like we experienced, which was like, surprise, here's a new product. Cuz like we went into the business and evaluated the old product. And I'm at the label design phase and finding out that this isn't what I thought it was. And so that was a shock. And
I do recall that conversation I had with Dane. I do recall it, and I didn't realize how drastic of a change it was going to be. Because he's like, "We're just going to come
What
out
did
with a
you
new
say to
product." I
him?
think. So we had monthly strategy calls, and he said, "Hey, we were going to add the sodium bicarbonate and the calcium carbonate to the old formula, but then we just decided we're probably just going to come out with a new product." And I was like, "He's like, do you think that's a good idea?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Not realizing he meant discontinue the old product.
you didn't
And
realize it was going to be your
remember
new
that-
product.
Yeah. And when he did that, I didn't realize it was going to be so drastic. But like I said, in 1 year, I think it's going to be a blessing.
Okay, so you're calm through that little thing. I know I've talked with you guys. There was a listing issue, FDA stuff. Could you guys go into a little bit of detail on that? And again, I kind of know the answer to this. Doc was probably like, great, let's go, eat out tonight. This doesn't change my life at all. We'll recover. And Deacon was like, this feels not good. So can you guys tell me about any FDA stuff and then the listing stuff? Because again, like part of Doc's superpower, even though it's not the biggest one he has, is he understands PPC. Like he understands Amazon. I think he's way more of a business owner overall, but that is one of his superpowers is he understands PPC and Amazon. So can you guys walk me through kind of like stuff with that and the FDA stuff, like what you were when you inherited it? Now it's not they've got an issue with their Amazon stuff. It's we have an issue with our Amazon stuff. So what was that like?
So on my side,
I'll let you go first, Deacon.
My side was kind of simple. I was mainly on like the label design and compliance side. And I guess my tip here was I used a designer that I actually have a relationship with. And that accelerated things so fast because the changes we were making were small, but it was the difference between like we can print your labels and stick it on something and sell it to the public and no chance. And so if I had originally gone like the Fiverr route, I don't know how many orders I would have placed or how much time I would have spent communicating. These are like the revisions they give back. It's like this line needs to be thicker. There needs to be a new line here. You need to separate these things. Like these columns don't line up. Like stuff like that, that it's like, these are simple changes. If you can just talk to somebody and say, here's what I need done, they're painful changes, I think, if you do it on a marketplace and you're trying to go back and forth in a chat. So that was a lot of my stuff, was just making labels compliant. And the manufacturer actually has a team. It's kind of funny. They don't have a team that designs them, but they do have a team that says, nope. So I wish, and sometimes they would point to these regulations and I would go read them, and they were hassling me about columns and how they lined up. And I'm reading the thing and I'm looking at other supplements and I'm like, this isn't a thing. And by the way, when I changed the columns, it squeezed our QR code off the label. And so for me, it was a lot of just wrestling with compliance stuff on the design side. But having a designer that I could talk to and be like, here's what they're telling me, here's what I need to happen, here's the success criteria. And they could get stuff back to me like same or next day. And that was
right on.
Amazing.
Nice.
Mine
Doc,
was a
what about
little
on
bit
your
more
end?
interesting. Yeah, it was a little
Yeah.
bit more interesting. So the nice thing with iLove, we had a great team in place. We had great attorneys, we had great insurance, we had great everybody in place because we just had built our network to that point. And so I have an incredible insurance person, and he's like a due diligence master. And so he wanted all the manufacturers, he wanted everything. And we did some digging into the manufacturer, and we found that in 2021, they lost their CGMP certification. And we just asked him about that. And so CGMP is clinically good manufacturing practices. It's what you need to have to sell supplements on Amazon, number one. And so we had to have hard conversations right away with the manufacturer. Like, hey, what's going on here? It was the FDA will pop in for an inspection. And if they don't find, like if they're not following CGMP practices, then they will lose it. And so they actually, I don't know if they lost it, but they got a suspension. And so we had to talk to the manufacturer about that and just kind of start looking for new ones as well. They still have it. They got it back, or I don't know if they lost it or just went on probation or something. I don't know the exact details of it. Deacon probably knows more than I do about that one. And the insurance ends up being more expensive as a result of that. And the insurance carrier is like, hey, you guys need to find somebody new because these guys have all these warnings on against them. And so that kind of puts a little stress in the situation because we have supplements manufacturing.
The order was already in.
and
Like, we found this out after
it's
the
in.
order had been placed. So it wasn't like, maybe we should try someone else. It was like, well, we got 8,000 units coming.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and their MOQ is 8,000 units, so it's not like a small manufacturer. Like, they only do big orders. So we looked into it more. They still have their CGMP now, and they got it back, or they never lost it. They passed the probation, and this is 3 years later, so hopefully they've turned everything around. Hopefully. Supplement space is a very, very interesting area. You have to do due diligence on the manufacturers. I went into it thinking that Dr. Barry, first of all, did due diligence on it, which I'm guessing he did, and his children did too. Because I'm guessing Dr. Barry would not put things in his patients' bodies that he didn't thoroughly test and look at himself, because he was a straight up herbalist, functional medicine, helped a ton of people in his life. So that's always a challenge there. And that actually led to a challenge of right after we bought it was, oh yeah, we have to pay an insurance bill now. And so insurance for supplements, I think we were paying $25,000 or $30,000 a year when we had iLove, and supplements is not cheap. And I think it was $3,000, wasn't it, Deacon?
It was somewhere around
surprise.
then. It's like we could do it, but
Yeah.
it was uncomfortable and added on top of the note payment and the other stuff and the not having inventory. So
Gosh,
And
it's like
then-
when you're like buying a home, it's like all all these little things add up when you're like, I was just looking at the mortgage price. Now I'm looking at like all these additional fees, the inspection.
oh, there's an
all this-
HOA. Oh,
yeah, yeah. Like, golly, I didn't account for this because no one told me, and I didn't know all that was going on. And now I'm noticing that there's like water buildup in this one area, the inspector said, and so now we've got this, and it's like all this uncovering in the business world. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, but like you like going through it, it sounds like a lot. Okay, I want to jump into why you guys brought back Hiatal Health. You guys brought it back, but knowing that it's had these challenges, I'm just kind of wondering, like, what was the process of getting it back? And if you guys are like, hey, we need to start making money before we start spending money, and I'm seeing that you guys have already started spending money on insurance and all this unexpected stuff, why have two products? Like, why not just stick to one at the beginning and just go with that and let that thing carry you guys? Why have two? I want to start with Doc and then go to Deacon on that.
You always listen to your customer. And so we knew what we wanted to do. Reflux Essentials is the bread and butter. It is our focus. It's what everything goes behind. And that's where all the PPC spend goes. That's where all the Google ads, that's where the list is being built around, is Reflux Essentials. However, when you have a 6-figure / almost multi-6-figure business based on one product that actually works after 60 days of using it, and it works incredibly well, when you go out of stock of it, people tend to get vocal. And we got emails, Facebook messages, Instagram messages. When is Hiatal Health going to be back in stock? And there's not really anything like it on the market. If you go to Amazon, we might get competitors after I say this, but when you go to Amazon and you type in hiatal hernia, there is one supplement, and that's ours. There's another supplement that's there, but it's just a digestive enzyme that's ranking for that term. But ours literally says Hiatal Health, and it's for, this is not an FDA structure function claim. I'm just saying it for simplicity of education of this podcast. It's for hiatal hernias. And there's just nothing like it on the market. So we couldn't send these customers away to go find something because we honestly didn't see anything else there. So we found another manufacturer that doesn't require 8,000 units, that only requires 1,000 units. And we just ordered a small batch and brought it back, and it's back in stock now. And when I started doing more research on it, I was like, I actually think we could get this to $1 million product. It's going to take a while, and it's already a $100,000 to $200,000 product. So I think we can make this a $1 million product in a couple of years, and passively. Like, we're not going to focus on it. And so it's there. It's going to have some advertising behind it, but it's for pure profit. It's going to be a pure subscribe and save play, which every supplement is, but that one's just going to be there.
Okay, so your two products are what now? The ones that one's a profit play, it's there, and then one that is the winner. What are those two products?
So we got Hiatal Health, and we got Reflux Essentials. And these are the two products. Reflux Essentials is going to be the main one. Hiatal Health is going to be kind of the passive one. That's the existing product.
Is it weird to just look at those two and go, we're betting the business on YouTube products? Like, I don't know. It's just so crazy that they're just like,
you're betting on the jockey, not the product.
That's a good way to put it. And if there's anything that put my mind at ease in all this, it's like I partnered with Travis, not because he's the world's foremost authority on selling reflux products. I partnered with him because he knows how to basically run this e-com business. And especially, like, if there's someone I have to work with to launch a product on Amazon, it's Travis. So at least I got that. So good way to put that, Travis.
Sweet.
Thanks.
All right. Let's do this. Let's jump to the numbers now. What are the early numbers now? You guys straightened out all that stuff. You worked through all that stuff. You got the FDA claims. You got stuff in stock. You found a new manufacturer. You overcame all of the early obstacles. Now you guys are up. You guys have a product ready to go. What are the early numbers right now? What are you guys seeing? Are you liking it? Is it causing dread? Are you going, what have we gotten ourselves into? Or is it like, what are your gut thoughts on this? Like, are you scared, or are you like, ooh, this is exciting?
Well, Travis is pulling that up. I'll say that it turns out Travis is really good at accidentally selling liver supplements, which is one of our like old SKUs that kind of came along with this that we're getting rid of. But we'll take it.
For the record, I have done absolutely nothing with the liver supplement. I did some initial ads, and then all of a sudden I raised the price by $5 and it starts selling more. And then I raised the price by another $5 and we're selling more. So it's up to $40 now a bottle, which is all our products are $40 now. And it's selling more now with no advertising on Amazon. It's a great product. I take it myself when I took it. So the sign of a good liver supplement is when you take it, it literally like breaks you out in like hives, rashes, eczema. Like, I was flushed. I had eczema all over my hands. I had hives. And it's because it's detoxing your body. It's releasing all the toxins and trying to get them out of your body. And so that shows up in all that, like hives and everything.
So if you'd like to experience this, listener, just go to Dr. Barry's.
It's only on Amazon.
Oh, no way. How many units out of curiosity, how many units do you guys have left of the liver?
70.
70 units, and it's selling like what, one a day or something?
More than that.
1 to 3 a day, yeah. Yeah.
Wait, it's doing 1 to 3 a day at the new price point?
Just change the price the day of this recording.
Up another $5.
Yeah, it's sold 2 today at the new price point.
Well, hold on. Last 7 days, we sold 21.
Oh, there you go. No ads.
So,
All right.
okay,
Queue
is this
up a
where
1,000
discipline
order.
comes in?
Deacon.
That's not what you asked about. That was my segue while Travis was looking for numbers.
Wait, so are you guys not trying to distract you here, but are you guys going like, well, do we order like a minimum order like of this? Because it's selling.
Absolutely not.
Tell me why, Deacon.
We haven't talked about this. Why? Because cash flow. Our strategic advantage right now is that Dr. Barry's doesn't have to pay anybody's mortgage. So we're not taking cash out of this. We're not depending on it for anything, which means we can pour excess margin into Travis's Amazon launch plan. And that will, like, Reflux Essentials should so far surpass that because we're not going to get distracted by this other product, and we can pour all of that excess, like, I'm blanking on words right now, that excess margin we can pour back into using to acquire customers. And that's what we're really after. If this was like a cash flow plan, I'd be like, oh, let me order some of that, and oh, maybe a little of this, and then we'd kind of be right back where we started.
Deacon the Disciplined. Okay, just numbers. Where are you guys at today? We are how far out from you guys being in? You guys pre-sold. I think you guys talked about that.
Yeah. So the first 30 days, we did a pre-sale of Hiatal Health because we needed to get some cash in. We talked about that in a previous episode. And then we launched the new product, and we did $12,412 in revenue in the first 30 days.
Just make sure you guys don't get excited about that. That's not a big deal. I'm happy for you.
No, I'm excited.
No, whatever, dude.
I don't know
you guys don't deserve
how to gauge it yet. Here's what I would point out, and this isn't like I'm usually pretty measured in responses anyway, but if we zoomed like way out, and Travis, I made the balance sheet for this, by the way, for the fund, and ballpark, we have still lost money. So it is not, we're not like, oh, 12 grand in our pockets. Yeah. We're like, hey, this is a good promising start that we can build on, but we also have to we're still in a phase where we're being really careful with cash because we need to put it back into marketing, but also we need to set it aside because we got a small order of one of those products and we'll have to like re-up it. And so we're still in a very conservative cash spending position. So I don't want it to sound like we've got 12 grand in the bank.
No, we definitely don't have 12 grand in the bank. That is pure top line. 12,412 in revenue, $500 on Amazon PPC spend. That was the only marketing we did.
That's incredible. Deacon, this is why they pay you the big bucks. Measured, disciplined.
No, Travis created the result.
And this team is awesome. Okay, so before we wrap this, looking ahead now, because now we've kind of wrapped the backstory of like how we ended up here. Now you guys did $12,000 in the past 30 days, which is exciting for me, and and promising for you guys. So looking ahead, what is the next big move that needs to be made? And then what would you guys say individually? Like, I'd love to hear from each of you. Here's the two questions. One, what are you looking ahead to going, all right, this will be great if we can get there? And what's the number one metric you're looking at? Like, if you're saying what is the most important metric in the business for the next 30 days, what is it for you, Deacon? And then we'll go to the doc and have him answer those two questions.
I'm going to give two metrics, and this is probably like, let's dig deeper on another episode. So I'm not going deep here at all. First metric is just units sold. And I really care about the two products that we're trying to sell. Like liver is kind of just bonus. And then the other metric that I am looking closely at is, this is sort of like a made up term, but gross margin after advertising, which is essentially like, some people call it contribution margin, but what it is essentially like, all right, we've got our product, we've got our product costs, we've got our like shipping, like all of these things that go into like cost of selling the product. And then we stack advertising on top of that. And then what we have left over is cash that should flow into us. And so that's a market metric that I look at a lot, because if we don't have enough cash flowing into us, we'll have a really high ranking product that we can't afford to order more of.
Got it. I like that. All right, Doc, what about you?
Yeah, so my main metric that I watch is cash in the bank. And the funny thing is, Deacon gets me that metric every week. And the reason I watch that number is because that determines how aggressive I can be with my marketing. And then on the marketing side, I am looking at essentially my top line gross and the estimated contribution margin, like Deacon just talked about, on those two products, and then overall for the entire account. So we still have the three products that are in the backgrounds is selling, and they do sell occasionally: the liver, Lady Biz, and Stone Solver. And those three products still sell one or two a week. Liver, we just talked about, we don't need to go into that. And so that produces like just a little cash flow here and there. So I do a total. And so I look at that total every week just to make sure we're profitable, because I am ramping up advertising. And so I told Deacon, make sure that we have cash in the bank, because we don't have credit cards yet. It's all cash. And so we have to make sure that we're building up cash reserves to order the next inventory round. And I got to make sure I don't blow it all. So I'm making very, very small bets in my advertising over a lot of different things versus like going super aggressive. And so I have pulled back the reins a little bit on my advertising, but I did start a bunch just yesterday and today. And by a bunch, when I start advertising, I start out at $5 a day per campaign. I make small bets and then I go all in when something's working. And by what I mean by that is I'll spread out a bunch of campaigns, $5 a day. Once I see one's working, or let's say I start 20 campaigns, I find 4 of them working, I go all in. And then I'll double the budget. Then I'll double the budget again. And then I'll start increasing it by like a 20 to 50%, depending on what platform I'm on. So I wish I could say I was that detailed and like doing it exactly like I just said, but it's also, there's a lot of emotion and feel in there too. So advertising is pure science, but I also bring in a lot of emotion to it too, because I'm like, that should work. And it usually doesn't work out like I want it to, but usually it does too.
Are you guys okay? It's so interesting here. You guys have both been in scenarios where you're dealing with way more money every month on spend and management. Like just way more. But it's interesting seeing you guys just as focused and avid on stuff that's like minuscule in comparison to what you used to manage in bigger businesses. It's just so interesting. Like it just carries over to something that's just did 12 grand when you've done multiples and multiples and multiples and multiples of that every single month. So last question, one answer. If you were to predict how much you guys brought in revenue next month, in the next 30 days, what would you say it would be? Like if you had to guess, this is the number that I think will be in our account next in 30 days, what would you say?
I'm going to have to clarify that question. There's a revenue and what's in my account are different. So
Yes,
let's go with let's go
Pick
with
one.
sales. Let's go with revenue. And I'm actually going to yield my guess to Travis, because he is driving the marketing and the sales and the launch program. And my guess would basically just be like a wild ass guess.
Do it. I want to know it. Just what would you like, not knowing, which is going to be hard for Deacon. He's like, I need more information.
What do you mean I can't have more information? All right. I'm looking at a reference number here. We're selling, we sold 54 last 7 days. So I'm going to say I want to be at double that pace. So a month from now, minimum last 7 days should look like 110.
Okay. I like it. All right. Doc, what about you?
That's pressure, man. That's the pressure. So yeah, you're looking at like 16,000 a month is what he's saying top line. Yeah, I was going to say around 20. His was a lot more, he's looking at the numbers, but so we did 12,000. I don't see a reason why we can't hit 20,000. The only thing that will stop us is if reviews start to go down. And that's the biggest, going back to fears. That is my biggest fear of this whole thing, is if reviews go down, it hurts. It hurts a lot. And so it seems like a good product so far. We've got 5-star reviews at the time of this recording. When I'm looking at like the total profit, top line is 2,500, the bottom line is like 1,000 because I've started ramping up ads. And so if we get to that 20, let's just say 25,000, we'll have 10,000 in the bank as a result. With more aggressive advertising, probably 8,000 in the bank. That's the goal. And I'm really being strict with like ROAS numbers and making sure I'm not going super aggressive right now. Well, I'm kind of am, but not that much. Kind of am.
We're conservatively aggressive.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Great episode, guys. Thanks. Can't wait to hear what happens in the coming weeks. We're all caught up. And Travis said he guarantees that they'll do at least 24K. They're going to double top line revenue. That's exciting. What a promise. What a guarantee. We trust you.
Hey, I wanted to thank you for watching this video. And I picked out another video just for you. So make sure you check out that other video. And what do they need to do? Do they need to like and subscribe? Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content.